All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judge Corey Amanda Cawthon. We're here for the afternoon session of First Appearance Court. As a reminder to everyone, everything that we say is being recorded and can be used against you at a later date. And so I do encourage you to speak to your attorneys before speaking on the record today. We will begin with our first appearance docket and then go to the hearing docket after that. But before I get started, I need to go to Conti to ask one of the deputies about a specific individual. Hi, Deputy.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Deputy, I have someone who, he didn't make the docket, so I just want to see if you know about him, and if you don't, if you can pull him. His name is Jonathan Valle, V-A-L-L-E.
Yes, he's here.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know. I just wanted to give you a heads up so that we can deal with it. I have his mother here. So actually, if I have no objection from the attorneys, we can go ahead and do him now since he's here. Okay, let's go ahead and bring him in. All right. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Valle.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Valle, I have your mother present in the courtroom. Okay, and you're here on a 30-day motion today. So let's first start out with this. Mr. Linder, has the state filed the charges?
Yes, Your Honor. It's case number 2891 MU10A.
Okay.
And yeah, the information was filed today. He was at some point before today, obviously, he was ROR'd to pretrial with the GPS on this case.
It's an address issue? Yes. It's the sister's house, and she said he can't live there?
My aunt.
The mother and the aunt.
Oh, the aunt, okay.
The aunt says no, she will not allow him to come back to her house.
All right, so let me just ask this, Mom, are you here to speak today or just to see what's happening? Just to watch? Okay, that's fine.
So I spoke
understand.
to Mom.
Okay, Mr. Miller, go ahead.
She is in the process of trying to find placement for Mr. Valle.
Can I speak?
Mr. Valle, just
Valle,
listen for a minute, okay?
It appears it's either a halfway house or a house of hope.
Okay, so Mom's
So-
trying to find a place for him.
So I explained to her that I'm going to give this information to his attorney
Okay,
and the attorney's information to her, and they can all kind of sort this out.
so that Mom and the attorney can
But that's going to be
communicate.
done in division, not in bond court.
Correct. All right. So, Mr. Valle, a couple of things. Let me just summarize a couple of things that we've talked about, okay? Because I know it's kind of a lot of information. Number one, the state has formally filed the charges, which means that the next step will be for you to go in front of your division judge for your arraignment hearing. That date has probably not been set yet, but will be set soon. Number two, as was previously discussed, on these charges, you were ROR'd to pretrial supervision to be put on a GPS monitor, but you had to have an address. And as you heard us discussing, you're not able to go reside with your mom and your aunt. So, Mr. Miller is telling me, Mom is here today. He spoke with her. She's trying to find a place, a program, or a house for you to go to. And so Mr. Miller is going to give her contact information to your assigned attorney so that she can communicate with the attorney about that and they can get that set up for you. Do you understand that?
Can I just say something? We
ahead.
have tried this, but all the programs and the halfway houses, they want to speak to me directly, and I
Okay.
cannot. So that I've asked several times to speak with the social worker. Have never been approved to speak with the social worker.
Okay.
It's been weeks. I mean, if I was released, I know where to go because the people, they already spoke to my mother and they said it's fine if he comes here himself, but I don't have a way to talk to them, and my lawyer has not responded to me either, or I have yet to meet her.
Okay, well, Mr. Miller is reaching out to your attorney today to give him or her all of that information, and they will be able to set up, if it needs to be a phone call for you to make to the program or whatever, they'll make sure to set that up. I've seen it happen. They'll get it set up for you so that if they are able to find a place for you to go, then that'll be handled that way, okay?
Sure. I had requested that if I could be sent to the Banyan program, that would be acceptable.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Miller's telling me right now he's passing all this information to your assigned attorney so they can speak with your mom and get on top of making those arrangements, all
I
right?
appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have any paperwork for him right now, so we're gonna have to get some. All right. Yeah, it was filed.
This is denied.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she has the case.
20,
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, so, Mr. Miller, did you get whatever information you need from Mom back there before we move on?
Oh, this is Banyan House, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that one is the residential. This one is coming and out, and he don't want to.
Outpatient.
Outpatient, he can do it that. He have to leave
Is this Banyan?
Banjum, yeah.
Same thing.
still gotta live somewhere.
Say the card, you can fill it out the paper.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Unlike
while,
me.
while you guys are doing that,
Okay.
we'll go ahead and go on to our next one. My first on my list is Janice Hamilton.
You see our main judge approaching? Come on up, ma'am.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Hamilton.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Hamilton, you're before the court this afternoon on 2 charges. Count 1 is first-degree petty theft. 2 is criminal attempt to solicit or conspire and a first-degree misdemeanor. I find probable cause, and I will hear from the parties.
Judge, can we check to see if her bond's been posted?
Let me check with confinement.
Yes. Is this,
It's not
Hamilton,
showing?
Judge?
Okay. This is Ms. Hamilton, correct?
I don't know if it has or not.
Confinement's telling me it's not showing in the system.
It will be.
Okay. All right, anything further from the state? All right, there's just, I'm gonna leave it as is, there's just gonna be a no return order to the CVS that's at issue in the case. All right, Ms. Hamilton, you understand the no return order?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much, good luck. Alyssa Hernandez?
She's approaching, she's here, Judge. My understanding is, she's retained, or a friend of hers has retained private counsel for her. I believe it's it's Johnny Weeks.
Oh, is this one you were talking
Yeah.
about? Okay, yes, Mr. Linder spoke with him. All right, good afternoon, Ms. Hernandez.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Hernandez, you're before the court this afternoon on 3 charges. Count 1 is burglary of an unoccupied conveyance, unarmed. Count 2, touch or strike battery. Count 3 is criminal mischief. And Ms. Hernandez, I understand that you've retained Johnny Weeks to represent you in this case. Mr. Linder, who's from the state attorney's office, he's in the courtroom with me. He spoke with Mr. Weeks before today's hearing, all right? Mr. Weeks is not gonna be here in person, but I'm gonna hear from Mr. Linder now as to what the discussion was.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Linder, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Weeks and myself have agreed to, if it's acceptable to the court, a $2,500 bond on count 1,
Okay,
$1,000 bond on count 2, an ROR on count 3,
all right,
in order of no victim contact.
okay,
I checked and saw that Mr. Hernandez has no history. Mr. Weeks provided me with some other mitigating factors for my consideration,
okay,
and I agreed to this bond and this discussion.
okay. All right, I will approve the agreement of the parties. For the record, I find probable cause. And Ms. Hernandez, so that you hear what I'm saying, once again, okay? Per the agreement of your attorney and the state attorney's office, the bond on count 1 will be set at $2,500. Count 2 will be $1,000. Count 3 will be an ROR. And there will be an order of no victim contact. Ms. Hernandez, so that you understand that order, whether you know the alleged victim or not, that means no being in the same place at the same time as this person, no phone calls or text messages to this person, and no third-party contact or social media contact. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Has my bond been posted?
It hasn't been posted yet, but your attorney knows about it. He's on top of it, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next will be Charlene Beapot.
She's approaching, Judge. She's here at Maine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Beapot.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Beapot, you're before the court this afternoon on 4 charges. Count 1, DUI, alcohol or drugs, first offense. Count 2, refusing to submit to a DUI test. Count 3 is a DUI accompanied by a person under the age of 18. Count 4 is child neglect without great bodily harm. I find probable cause for these charges, and I will hear from the parties at this time.
Your Honor, I see no history based on the allegations. I'd be requesting a $1,000 bond on count 4, and at this point in time, in order, no victim contact.
Okay. Mr. Romero?
Judge, no issue with the monetary bond. It's the condition that the state has requested as far as no contact with the child. I understand the allegations are serious, Judge, but as you heard, Ms. Beapot has no prior contacts with the criminal justice system. She's a single mother raising her three children. One is 16, one is 10 years old, and the other is the child that we're talking about. There's no, in our history, there's never been any allegations of this to any of the other children. I believe this was an isolated incident, Judge, which will not happen again. From my conversation with Ms. Beapot, Judge, to impose no contact at this time, that's something that's Ms. Beapot is willing to do whatever it takes for the court not to do, such as maybe a stipulation or condition of a TAD monitor that will ensure that Ms. Beapot will not be under the influence while driving a vehicle. Judge, but that's the one condition that she's just asking this court at this time not to impose, as far as no contact with the child.
She has no prior history at all.
Patricia, do you have any notes? And, Your Honor, well, that's being looked up. Yeah, I mean, while there may not be any arrest history, just these allegations, Your Honor, give me pause and concern that there are some significant alcohol issues going on here. And without really further additional information, considering what we're talking about here, I think it's appropriate in an abundance of caution for the interest of the child to order no contact. And when more information can be provided, then a more informed decision can be made.
Mr. Romero?
Judge, I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Lender. I'm sure he couldn't find anything as far as any priors. I believe that was the question posed by the court. But Judge, just to add an additional condition to hopefully alleviate the court's concern, we wouldn't object at this time if the court also wanted to impose a condition as far as no driving at all. So therefore, if she even thinks about getting behind the wheel, that would be a violation of this court's order. I mean, I know Ms. Beapot's willing to do whatever it takes and live by whatever orders this court does. She just needs to be with her child, Judge.
Mr. Romero, I'm going to give her a choice, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to discuss this with her. Either I'm going to impose a no victim contact order with the monetary amounts that we've already discussed, or The only way that I'm not going to impose a no contact order is going to be if she's on pretrial supervision with random drug and alcohol testing once a week, and a tab monitor, and a no driving order.
Judge, I just gave her a little bit more, information of what the court is actually asking of her.
Yes.
And so I want her to know as far as what she's getting herself into, and she does accept it, Judge.
Okay, and pretrial is just asking me to advise, she needs to make sure there's someone that can verify her address so that they're able to do that.
Judge, and I did tell her that they have to verify, and that's probably gonna cause her to spend one night. She's okay with that, Judge.
Okay. All right, then for the record, I'm going to leave the standard bonds on 1 and 3. Count 4 will be set at $1,000. If Ms. Beepop posts a monetary bond and pretrial can verify the address, she'll be placed on pretrial supervision. She'll be subjected to random drug and alcohol testing 1 time per week. She will be placed on a tab monitor, and there will be an order of no driving until further order of the court. Ms. Beepot, you understand all of these conditions that we've discussed?
I do.
Oh, sorry, I turned it off.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. All right, next up will be Michelle Tiger.
Medical?
It's on medical reset. She's on loan.
Okay, thank you. Bo Littlejohn,
Main jail.
is there an extra report for count 6 that I don't have? Good afternoon, Mr. Littlejohn.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Linder, while you're checking that. Miss-
My guess is it was done by citation, which wasn't attached, so.
Okay, we'll address it in a moment. Mr. Littlejohn, you're before the court this afternoon on 3 ad charges. Count 4 is first-degree petty theft. 5 is for criminal mischief. 6 is driving while license suspended, second offense. Do we have any information as to the citation for count 6?
Sorry.
On count 6, do we have any information at all?
I'm guessing it's a citation. I'm not gonna ask for any time. It could be ROR on that.
Okay, all right. On count 6, that's the driving while license suspended. I don't have any paperwork on it. So I'm just gonna, I'll find no PC on that one and place an ROR. I do find probable cause as to the other 2 ad charges. So I'll hear from the parties.
It's got a $7,500 bond on count 1, Your Honor. I'm not asking for anything additional.
Okay. Mr. Romero, anything from you?
One moment, I'm just explaining to Mr. Littlejohn what's going on.
Okay.
Jerry Graham?
Nothing at this time, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck, Mr. Littlejohn. Joseph Michael Lynch,
Bonded?
thank you. Joseph Guillaume,
Someone sent him here. There's no one
He's approaching, Judge.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Guillaume.
Good afternoon.
Here before the court this afternoon on 5 misdemeanor capiases. These are all related to charges for driving with a suspended driver's license. I find probable cause. I do see you're set to go before your division judge for a status hearing tomorrow morning. Do the parties wish to be heard?
Based on his court date tomorrow, not at all. Not at this time, Judge.
Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Guillaume. Gary Delaveau.
It's at North Broward, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mel,
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Delaveau.
how you doing, Mel?
I'm well, thank you. Mr. Delaveau, you are here this afternoon on one charge of trespassing on an occupied structure or conveyance. I find probable cause. Mr. Miller, have you had the opportunity to speak to him?
I did, Your Honor. Mr. Delaveau would like to resolve this case if the court is so inclined.
All right.
Judge, we're going to ask the court not to revoke his pretrial in the case that he is out on, and to allow him to resolve this trespass case.
Well, unfortunately, a condition of his pretrial supervision is that he not pick up any new charges. So, all right, in case number 19015556 MU10A, I am going to grant pretrial's request to revoke Mr. Delaveau's pretrial services in that case. I'm not going to hold him no bond in the case, but so I will hear recommendations from the parties on that case as to bond.
It's a property damage crash case, Your Honor,
Okay?
with, standard bond is $1,000. I'd be asking for that amount to be placed on the case.
Is that on count one?
Yes, there was an account too when he was first arrested. In case he can't bond if he gets gain time, I'd be fine with a $50 bond on the DWLS.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Judge, Mr. Delaveau was indigent. He was placed on pretrial back in June. It does not appear there has been any issues with that since then. This is a trespass case. I advise the court that any bond amount in this case is tantamount to no bond, and ask the court to consider putting him back on pretrial release. Perhaps, I don't know. Well, we're going to have to take it up in division, Judge. This is
Okay, all right, Mr. Delaveau is gonna have to. Okay, so Mr. Delaveau, I wanna make sure you understand what's going on. You had another case, you had a DUI case that was put on pretrial last year. Because you picked up this new charge, or this new arrest, excuse me, pretrial has requested that I revoke your pretrial services in that case, because one of the conditions of pretrial is no new arrests. So in the case that it was on pretrial, I'm going to set the standard bond on count one in that case at $1,000. I'll set a $50 bond on count two in that case. And you'll be able to address that with your division judge to see what's going on with it. And given those circumstances, I'll leave the standard bond in place on the trespass case so you can address all of it at the same time.
Okay, so what I'm supposed to do?
So, Mr. Delvo, you can either find somebody to post your bond for you, which, okay, or you'll speak to your attorney and go in front of your division judge to see how they want to handle it, all right?
So I'm gonna sit here in the jailhouse.
Well, unless you find someone to post your bond, that's correct.
I can post my own bond.
Okay, you can try to do that.
Okay, how I'm gonna do that? How can I do that?
You,
Okay, all right.
all right, your deputy will tell you.
Bonds
Thank
were
you.
set at $1,050, is that right?
Yep, on the other one.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up will be Lauren Smith.
He's here at Main Judge, approaching. Mr. Smith, come on up, please.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith, you're before the court this afternoon on a violation of parole. I find probable cause. And Mr. Smith, since this is a parole violation, it has a no bond hold, which means that you'll go in front of the parole board in order to address how they're going to handle it. All right, good luck to you, sir. Robert Schwab,
Bonded, Judge.
thank you. Sharif Brown,
Mr. Brown is here present, Maine. He's approaching, Judge. He declined the services of public defender. He says he's going to post his monetary bond, Judge.
okay. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Brown, do you understand that you are entitled to have an attorney represent you for this hearing this afternoon?
Yes.
And are you declining the services of the public defender at this time?
Yes.
All right. For the record, you're before the court on 3 charges. Count 1, possessing a counterfeit driver's license or ID. 2, possessing tools for receiving or selling credit card machine or plates. 3 is counterfeit or making falsely making credit cards. I find probable cause. And is the state seeking anything beyond the standard bonds?
No, Judge.
All right, so Mr. Brown, I'm gonna leave the standard bonds in place on these charges, so your bond total is going to be $2,750. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good luck to you.
Okay.
Jason Patterson,
Mr. Patterson is approaching, Judge. He's here at Maine. Come on up, Mr. Patterson.
Judge, I have an argument as to count 1.
all right. Good afternoon, Mr. Patterson.
How are you doing, Your Honor?
I'm well, thank you. Mr. Patterson, you're before the court on 3 charges. Count 1, grand theft auto. 2, possessing tools for receiving or selling credit card machine or plates. 3 is counterfeit or falsely making credit cards. And Mr. Miller, I'll hear your argument as to count 1.
Judge, according to the probable cause affidavit in this case, the vehicle that was allegedly being driven by Mr. Patterson was, quote, unconfirmed, stolen out of Vero Beach. Mr. Patterson advised the detective that he rented the vehicle. There is no confirmation that the vehicle was stolen, and therefore I would argue there is no probable cause to hold him for grand theft auto.
All right. Mr. Linder, the state's response?
Fine, Judge, we can come back and recess for 24 hours.
24 hours?
Yes, please.
Judge, in the meantime, I would ask the court to keep the convenience bond as set.
Okay. That's fine. So what I will do is I'm going to give the state 24 hours to perfect count 1. I'll leave the standard bond so that if he decides that he wants to post it, then he can do that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good luck, Mr. Patterson. Patrick Ben.
Maine.
Thank you.
He's approaching, Judge.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ben.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Ben, you're before the court this afternoon on 7 charges. Count 1, first-degree petty theft. Count 2, resisting an officer obstructing without violence. 3 is a felony probation violation with a no bond hold. 4 is criminal attempt to solicit or conspire in a first-degree misdemeanor. 5, driving while license suspended. 6, driving a vehicle without lights at night. That is not for magistrate. And 7 is a felony probation violation with a no bond hold. I find probable cause for these charges. I do note, Mr. Ben, you have a hearing with your division judge tomorrow morning to address the probation violation matter. So in light of that, do the parties wish to be heard on count one?
Not at this time, Judge.
All right, I will leave that in place at this time, so Mr. Ben can see his division judge. Good luck to you, sir. Joshua Ross.
Change it.
Mr. Ross is here, Judge President. Name?
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Ross. I'm well, thank you. And Mr. Ross, you're before the court this afternoon on 5 charges. Count 1, possession of cannabis, 20 grams or less. 2, possession of MDMA. 3, retail theft greater than $750 coordinated with others. 4 and 5 are felony warrants for violations of pretrial, which have no bond holds. I find probable cause. In light of the no bond holds, do the parties wish to be heard on counts 2 and 3?
Not at this time, Judge.
All right. All right, Mr. Ross, good luck to you.
Judge, there's another person on the regular docket that I do not believe the court has called.
Okay.
Mr. Giovanni Rodriguez on page 7.
I do not have paperwork for him. Does anyone have anything for Giovanni Rodriguez?
It's on the docket, but the paperwork wasn't given out.
I'm sorry? No paperwork?
Could you replace- keep it-
Someone has paperwork?
could you replace that with the paperwork?
I did not have any paperwork from Mr. Rodriguez either, Judge.
What, is there paperwork on him or not? Yeah,
He's got no.
Yeah,
bond
'cause-
holds, and that way he doesn't have to get woken up.
he does have no bond holds?
Yeah.
Okay,
no problem.
yeah, let's go ahead and make the copies. They're gonna make me copies of his paperwork so we can address it so that I don't have to reset him to tomorrow. So, is he the only person you have left at Maine?
No, on the regular docket.
Okay.
That was the last person.
Okay, so
And
why
Judge,
don't
if
I-
for some reason we can't do that paperwork, Mr. Rodriguez already told me what's going on. He's with the PDs on the no bond hold.
Yes.
He's given me permission to waive his appearance for tomorrow if for some reason we can't go ahead and get the paperwork done today.
Just photocopying. I mean, either way, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to.
It'll be fine. We'll be able to do it today. Just, what I'll do is continue on with our other cases, and then I'll recall him back up. Okay?
No problem, Judge.
All right. Okay, so let's go to our hearing docket. I'm going to start with our one MO case. Mr. Hennigan, which facility is he at?
He's here at Main, Judge. Unit 4.
you.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
This is a long history, but it's all mistakes. And it is mistakes because I did 8 days already.
Mr. Hennigan, perhaps a mistaken
ma'am.
judgment. Perhaps a mistaken judgment, right? Okay.
Well, actually, they're calling that I had orders and somebody tried to give me the liquor and my wife pushed it back to them because we didn't want it. So I did 8 days anyways on trespassing.
2 different mistakes.
All right, well, the issue is this, Mr. Hennigan. I have you here on the
Yes.
second, you're on the second look today. The bond is $50, but the city has not made an offer to you, so you can't plea it out today.
I know I don't have it. I'd like to make a deal if I could.
There's no deal to be made. The city is not offering you a deal right now. That's the issue. That was the issue when you came into me for the last hearing.
What did I do 8 days already though?
Because you had your first appearance hearing with me, and the bond was set at $50. And then, because you haven't bonded out yet, you're back here on the second look docket, but the bond is still $50. So,
Can I plead no contest to this right now?
there's not an offer from the city. That's the issue, Mr. Hennigan. Let me ask this. Can someone,
Yeah.
will you, hold on one second, Mr. Hennigan. Will you do me a favor? Tell me if he has any open MO cases besides this?
Nope.
just checking something. Give me a moment.
I know, ma'am.
Wait a minute, Judge, he has so many cases.
I'm aware.
No, I'm just saying, I can't just use his first and last name and get too many results.
I know he recently pled out a bunch of MO cases. That's why I just want to see if he's got any open ones.
This is the last of it, unfortunately.
Mr. Hennigan, you told me that at Hollywood so many times last year I lost count, all right?
That was last year though, but I understand.
Just because I'm not in Hollywood anymore doesn't mean that I don't know what's going on with you.
I understand, ma'am.
All right, just give me a minute.
Yes, I'll sit, I'll wait for you, no problem.
I'll just check for cases from this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm showing. In addition to these cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 municipal ordinance cases that are open.
Is he on pretrial or bond or anything? Are you able to tell? I know that you don't do the
That I
MLS,
can
but
figure out. Let's see, the first one he was given an NTA. And then a KPS, all right, get served. Wait a minute. One moment, Judge.
okay.
I will attend the bond if I have to.
The bond is $50. Do you have $50?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. All right, just hang on.
Looks like a KPS was issued and then withdrawn. Judge, it might have been brought to Judge Powell's attention or Judge Gottlieb's attention that he was arrested the same day as his KPS in that
Yeah.
case. Then there's another case. KPS is issued on the 27th. He was transferred to Judge Gottlieb. Same thing on this other case.
So what is Gottlieb doing with his cases? Did he put him on bond or on pretrial?
Well, real quick, just, I don't want to lose, he's got another case where he got an NTA, he's got NTAs on all of them,
Right.
that he's scheduled for arraignment before Judge Powell on March 5th.
Okay.
On the other cases, it doesn't show that he's been given new hearing dates from what I can tell.
All right, so he's got an arraignment tomorrow in Hollywood in front of Judge Powell. Did you know about that, Mr. Hennigan?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
And Hollywood?
Yes, in Hollywood, in front of Judge Powell is in my old courtroom at the Hollywood Courthouse. Have you been to see
Okay,
her
I know
yet?
Yes, I know where that is, actually.
I know that you know where that is. That's not what I asked
Yes,
you.
I used to live there. I will show up, ma'am.
Listen, Mr. Hennigan, you were very good about coming to your court dates last year, but then you fell
Yes.
off and you stopped coming to court.
Because I stopped getting mail, I understand.
Okay, but you know you gotta go to your hearings, because if you don't go, then what happens?
That's a warrant. And-
Right.
and it's, yeah, and in Maryland, it starts.
Okay. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Because you've been in custody for a week, okay? You and I know each other very well by this point, not for good reason, okay? You have an arraignment hearing scheduled with Judge Powell at the Hollywood Courthouse tomorrow.
Yes,
So,
ma'am, I hear you.
what?
That's in my memory.
Yeah, don't forget what I'm saying to you. So
Yes, ma'am.
what I'm willing to do on this case is I'm not gonna, there's no plea offer from the city. So I'm gonna give you an ROR on it so that you'll be released today. But understand what I'm saying to you. You
Yes,
had
ma'am.
better be at the Hollywood Courthouse tomorrow afternoon for that hearing with Judge Powell. Because if you are
Can you
not,
check?
hold on, listen. If you're not
Okay.
there tomorrow to go address these issues, then you know what is gonna happen. The KPS is gonna get issued, Hollywood's gonna pick you up, and you're gonna come back to me, and then we're gonna go through this all over again.
Yes, I want to ask you, what street is that, Maryland, the courthouse on?
It's the one on Hollywood Boulevard. You've been there many times.
It's on Hollywood Boulevard then?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just west then, it's near the cop station going down that way
That's
then.
correct.
Okay, I know where that is, yes ma'am.
Just,
I can walk there.
just to remind Mr. Hannigan, when he was arrested, there was also a state charge of trespass.
Yes.
Your Honor found no probable cause, so he was ROR'd on that. I don't know if someone's gonna file it or not. It could end up being filed.
Okay, Mr. Hennigan, what Mr. Linder's telling me is, as a reminder to you, all right, you recently you picked up that trespass case that's a state case, it's not an MO case, and I ROR'd you on that one also. A new court date hasn't been generated yet, but you need to make sure when you go to the Hollywood courthouse, you need to give them some sort of a mailing address for you so that you know what's going on with your court dates. You understand?
Okay. Yes, ma'am, I do. Now, that's next to the police station
Correct.
down there, Hollywood Boulevard. Okay,
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So where are you gonna
God
be
bless you.
tomorrow afternoon?
I'll get there early.
All right, please make sure, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm gonna ROR you for today. You'll be released and find your way to the courthouse tomorrow, okay?
I'll walk there.
All right, very good. Okay. All right, okay, I have the paperwork for Giovanni Rodriguez. Did everybody get a copy of it?
Mr. Rucker, come on up.
Let me just take a look at it real quick.
No problem, Judge. He's right there. Oh, no, no, sorry. Okay.
Are you gonna make a finding sheet for me on this one? Okay. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay. All right, Mr. Rodriguez, you are here this afternoon on 3 ad charges. And those are as follows. Count 4 is passing a forged or altered bill or promissory note. 5, possessing 10 or more counterfeit money or coins with intention to pass. And 6 is grand theft between $750 and $5,000. I find probable cause for these charges. And Mr. Linder, did you say that he has no bond holds right now?
Yes, he does, Judge.
All right, so is the state seeking anything beyond the standard bonds in this case?
No, Judge.
All right, Mr. Romero, anything that you would like to add?
Judge, we're not asking anything. The only thing, in speaking of Mr. Rodriguez, he just wanted to know on these incident, when was the alleged date of incident?
This was from April of last year at the Seminole Classic Casino.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Good luck, sir. Okay, let's go back to our hearing docket. I'll go to the felony docket. First up will be Xavier Burton.
He's here present at main, Judge, approach, come on up, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Burton.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Burton is here on a 30-day motion.
Your Honor, this is Mr. Burton.
Yes.
State has not filed any information at this time. He is entitled to an ROR in these charges.
All right. Is there anything else holding him?
I don't believe so, but I'm not certain. Yes.
I can check with confinement. Will you just tell me if Mr. Burton has anything holding him besides these three?
No, Judge.
No? Okay. All right, Mr. Burton, since the state has not formally filed these charges yet, you are entitled to an ROR today. I just need to advise you that though you're going to be released today as a result of the ROR, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of the case. So it's going to be your responsibility to be in contact with your attorneys in the clerk's office so that you know if there's any future court dates you have to be at, okay?
I understand.
All right, good luck to you, sir.
Thanks, Judge.
Robert Reynolds.
No problem.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Reynolds.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Reynolds, you are here on a 30-day motion. Mr. Linder, have these charges been filed?
Yes, Judge. The strangulation and one count of grand theft auto has been filed under this case number.
Okay.
We're filing the aggravated fleeing and eluding and grand theft auto under a separate case number.
In a separate case? Okay. All right, so Mr. Reynolds, since the charges have been filed, that means the next step will be to go before your division judge for an arraignment hearing. That date probably hasn't been set yet, but will be set shortly, so you'll be seeing the division judge soon, all right?
Will I still have my, motion for, ROR bond reduction on Friday?
Does he have a hearing set on Friday?
I mean, I would imagine if it's a
bond
motion for
reduction.
bond reduction, I
just-
imagine that would be.
Yeah, that's
still
why I want to
in
make
place.
sure it's the one.
I'm
Yes?
gonna check, Judge, but I think so.
Okay, I'm just gonna have them confirm that right now, Mr. Reynolds. Just give me a minute.
Thank you.
He just needs to, if that's the case, he just needs to make sure to tell his attorney that we're filing under two different case numbers.
Okay.
So if the motion is granted, they would need two different orders.
See what Mr. Miller's got first.
Yes, it's in front of Judge Allspector, so if the second case is not in front of Judge Allspector, then we have a problem.
All right, so,
It's gonna be a Friday problem.
yeah, okay, so Mr. Reynolds, let me explain something, okay? You have that motion and hearing set in front of Judge Allspector on Friday. I just want to advise you, because there's 4 total charges. 2 of them have been filed as we're sitting here today. What Mr. Linder is telling me is that the state attorney is filing the other 2 charges under a separate case number. So please make sure that you let your attorney know that, so that all of that can be addressed and we don't have anything that's left off. You understand?
Right.
Just send your attorney a note.
I wanna make sure I'm understanding this right.
Yes.
You have to excuse me, I have Parkinson's, so that's why I'm stuck.
That's all right.
Where my stutter comes from. All 4 charges can be heard Friday as a part of that hearing?
No, I just want you to make sure you tell your attorney, because if the other 2 charges are gonna be filed under a separate case number, the attorney may need to file a motion with the other case number as well. So he or she may need to file 2 motions. Okay, but one of them is definitely set for Friday, so you'll see the division judge on Friday, okay?
Okay.
All right.
And there's no telling when the, arraignment will be?
That I don't know yet. The date probably hasn't been set yet, but you'll probably find that out by the time you get there on Friday, okay?
All right.
All right, good luck,
Thank
sir. Next will be Alberto Acosta.
Costa. No problem, Joe.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Acosta.
57.
Do we have a Spanish interpreter? please?
76.
We have requested a Spanish interpreter, Judge. In the meantime, we do have another gentleman at,
75.
Okay, all right, Mr. Acosta, I'll call you back in a few minutes when we have the interpreter. Okay. All right, who's the other case at North Broward?
Mr. Grant.
Okay, he's next on my list. We'll go ahead and take him. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Grant.
Good afternoon, John.
Okay, Mr. Grant is here on a second look hearing. Mr. Miller, have you had a chance to speak to him?
Did, Your Honor. One
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Grant did not bond out because he cannot afford the bond, Judge. He is a lifetime resident of South Florida. He's been living at the same address for his entire life. He works temporary jobs, most notably at a car wash. That's all I got, Judge. If he can't afford to post bond, and nobody's going to be posting the bond for him.
All right, Mr. Linder, do you want to be heard on anything?
Yes, Judge. I believe the reason that Your Honor, or if he was heard over the weekend, the judge that heard his case kept his bonds in place is because at the time of this arrest, he has 2 other felonies with a charge of grand theft on each of them.
That is right. I'm the one that had Mr. Grant for first appearance. Okay, so because there are 2 other cases that are pending, I'm going to leave these bonds in place as I set them at the first appearance hearing. All right, Mr. Grant, good luck to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and while we are waiting on the interpreter, we'll next go to Israel Cannon. What facility is Cannon at? Okay, thank you very much. All right, Conti, do you have Israel Cannon?
Who are you looking for, ma'am? Israel?
Israel Cannon,
Yeah, this is coming.
thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Cannon.
How you doing, man?
I'm well, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Cannon, you are here for a second look hearing today. The bond is currently set at $500. And Mr. Miller, have you had a chance to speak with Mr. Cannon? Okay,
I tell you, I looked at your original findings.
yes.
I really can't remember what the circumstances were, but you did sign a SAP order.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you want to be heard on? In light of that?
Judge, I can speak to Mr. Cannon if the court give me a moment.
That's fine.
See where we're at.
Okay, all right, Mr. Cannon, Mr. Miller's gonna call you on the phone there so he can speak to you privately for a moment, and then I'll bring you back to the podium, okay?
All right, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is, the last case Jessica Martinez, is she at Maine? Or she-
I'll check.
Okay, I'll just wait then.
Showing Paul.
This is Paul Ryan Martinez, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Let me wait on that, because I need Mr. Miller for that one.
Scroll up.
Stand right here.
Did Silvestri bond?
Judge, we're ready to proceed in Israel Cannon.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so Mr. Miller, what would you like to tell me about Mr. Cannon?
Judge, again, Mr. Cannon has not bonded out because he's unable to bond himself out, and nobody has come forward to bond him out yet. The bond is it's $500. He would ask the court to consider pretrial release. He's going to live with his brother and his family. He's unemployed. He's receiving SSI. He's telling me that the house that the brother and his family live in is actually the family home, and he's been there on and off for over 40 years. Mr. Cannon would not object if the court ordered him to seek outpatient rehabilitative services.
Yes.
Your Honor,
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
thank you. Obviously, it's reasonable that Mr. Cannon requested SAP, because I know Your Honor wouldn't order someone into SAP.
Right.
Your Honor obviously felt comfortable with that because you signed off with the order. So there must be some concern, especially with he does or does not have a residence?
He does. He has some place.
Because I don't even know that the court can order someone into outpatient treatment at this,
No.
from this juncture. I guess I have a bit of a concern with someone requesting to go into SAP on March 1st and now on March 4th has no interest in the SAP program.
So I don't have the probable cause affidavit in front of me. I think I remember which case it is, but we just,
It was, the sum and substance was it occurred at Broward North. There was an officer on duty there. He saw Mr. Cannon damaging the police officer's
the car, right? Okay. I do remember the case. Okay. All right. For today's purposes, I'm going to leave the bond in place. Of course, the SAP order remains, so Mr. Cannon, if you still want to participate in the SAP program, that will be available to you as soon as an opening comes about. But for today's purposes, I'm going to leave the $500 bond as it is. All right, good luck to you, sir. Okay, I have our Spanish interpreter here for Mr. Acosta's case.
Yes, Judge. North
All right.
Broward. So,
And hold on one moment. And for my interpreter, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to interpret from Spanish to English and English to Spanish to the best of your ability?
I do. Esteban Rojas.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. And we'll wait for Mr. Acosta to come back in so we can see what's going on.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Acosta.
Buenas tardes, señora Acosta.
Okay, this was reset from yesterday.
Esta audiencia se aplazó desde ayer.
Mr. Miller, do you have some more information for us?
I do, Your Honor.
Señor Miller, ¿tiene más información? Sí.
Okay.
So we spoke to Mr. Acosta's sister.
Hablamos con la hermana del señor Acosta.
Mr. Romero and I made the phone call.
El señor Romero y yo hicimos la llamada.
Actually, we spoke to her husband.
De hecho, hablamos con el esposo de ella.
She was unable to come to the phone,
Ella no pudo venir al teléfono,
but he informed us that he is not going to be bonding Mr. Acosta out
pero él nos informó que no va a pagar la fianza del señor Acosta.
and that he cannot go live there.
And that he cannot.
Cannot.
Que no puede costear ese monto.
And so we find ourselves in a situation where we're going to have to either find some placement for him or find someone to post the bond.
Así que estamos en una situación donde o vamos a tener que encontrar algún lugar para ubicarlo o encontrar a alguien que pague la fianza.
And so, Mr. Acosta, that's probably going to take place in front of your division judge.
Así que, señor Acosta, eso probablemente se va a hacer delante de su juez de división.
That's beyond the scope of what happens in magistrate court.
Eso está más allá del alcance de lo que se hace acá en el Tribunal de Control.
No tengo más nada.
¿Cómo?
Que no tengo más nada.
Oh, well, I have nothing to add.
One thing I can advise the court,
De parte de la Fiscalía, una cosa que puedo informarle a la Corte.
I just checked the case filing notes.
Acabo de revisar los apuntes de trámite del caso.
It would appear we are going to be filing the top count of battery on a law enforcement officer.
Al parecer, sí vamos a tramitar el cargo de lesiones en contra de un oficial de policía.
The good thing about that regarding these circumstances is once that's filed,
La ventaja de eso, en cuanto a estas circunstancias, es que una vez que ya se tramite ese cargo,
the public defender's office can get him evaluated, and if he qualifies, he can then go to mental health court.
La oficina de la defensa pública puede solicitar una evaluación y una vez que eso suceda, posiblemente pueda ser trasladado al Tribunal de Salud Mental.
And those services would then become available.
Y ya se estarían a disposición los servicios que proporciona esa corte.
Okay, based on that
Bien,
information,
con base en esa información,
I'm going to leave the bond in place as
Voy-
it was set.
voy a dejar tal cual la fianza, tal y como se puso.
And Mr. Acosta,
Y señora Costa,
your attorneys will be able to further address this with you after today.
sus abogados podrán retomar el asunto con usted más allá después de hoy.
Good luck to you, sir.
Buena suerte, señor.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then
Is that all?
we have one more, Paul Ryan. I don't think she needs an interpreter though. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rojas.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon, Ms. Martinez.
Good afternoon.
All right, Ms. Martinez is here on a second look hearing as well. Her bond is set at $2,000 total. And Mr. Miller, what would you like to tell me?
Judge, Ms. Martinez did not bond out because she cannot afford to post her own bond. She is a lifetime resident in South Florida. She's been living at her current address for a long time. She's currently unemployed. She is supported by her family. If the court would consider releasing her to pretrial, the supervision of pretrial services, she would not object to an order that she seek outpatient treatment.
I think the reason Your Honor didn't consider pretrial at her first appearance was because she was arrested last year for violating a pretrial. She was ordered to go to a treatment, First Step Sober House,
Yes.
Second Chance Women's Residential Program. She did not comply, and she tested positive for cocaine while she was there and discharged. She was arrested about a month or so later, and that was on capias's violation of pretrial on that case and another case.
Okay. All right. So for the purposes of today's hearing, Ms. Martinez, I'm going to leave the bonds in place as they were originally set. And if it needs to be addressed further after today, your attorneys can speak to you about that. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So that brings us to the end of our docket for today. I'll see everyone back here tomorrow. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes. Oh, who do I have?
this is Conti.
Yes.
I'm sorry to disturb you. I have a gentleman named Zayas that was on my list. I don't know if he was on your docket or not.
Mr. Zayas was just in front of me, I think, yesterday for a first appearance,
Checking to see
wasn't he?
who's being held on.
Yeah, hold on
It
one
wasn't
second, we're
on
just
the
gonna
second
check it.
or the motion.
No, I think he was, yeah, I think he was on our first appearance docket yesterday.
Yeah, he should have probably gone to division because he was arrested on a few separate MO capiases.
Yeah, so he should be going, okay, so deputy, he's not on my docket for this afternoon, he should be going in front of his division judge soon, cause he has, capiases that he was picked up on.
All right, ma'am. You have a great evening.
Thank you, you too, I'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go off for today.